everyone, this is Aubrey from Piece by Piece Living. Today I'm going to be making a really easy tomato soup in the Instant Pot. The star of the show are the Roma tomatoes. I also have some ingredients that pretty much everybody's going to have in their house. I've got some red chili pepper flakes, Italian seasoning, sea salt, chicken broth. If you're vegetarian, you can make it, vegetable broth. I have some minced garlic, avocado oil, some crushed tomatoes, an onion, and then some other ingredients that are in the fridge. So this recipe is really easy. It cooks technically in the Instant Pot for 10 minutes, but obviously you have to account for the time it takes to rise up to pressure. This recipe also freezes really well. I keep mine in the freezer for like a couple months. But let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how I make my really simple, creamy tomato soup in the Instant Pot. Okay, so let's jump straight into it. This is the Instant Pot. This is the larger Instant Pot. You could use a smaller one, but because I'm going to use an immersion blender later on, I want the bowl to be as high as possible so it doesn't splatter everywhere. So depending on which model you have, your buttons will be in a different location, but I'm going to go ahead and click Saute, and it's going to start warming up the pan. I'm also going to put some avocado oil inside the Instant Pot, about 2 tablespoons, like so. That's going to start heating up, and I'm just going to throw in my chopped onions. They don't really have to be cut precisely because you're going to blend everything up anyway. I'm using about 1 medium onion. If you have a large onion, I'd probably use like 3/4 of it or half maybe. So I'm just going to throw that in there, and it's going to start sauteing in here. So you'll hear it. And we're going to saute the onions until they kind of turn like a translucent color, and then we will add in the garlic. So the onions are starting to saute. They're becoming like a translucent color. Once they do that, you're going to throw in the minced garlic and just let it brown slightly. If you overcook the garlic, it'll burn and it'll taste gross. Learn from my mistake. It takes like maybe 30 seconds to brown garlic. It smells so good though. Oh, I love it. It smells like an Italian home. Once you start seeing a little bit of color on your garlic, you're going to go ahead and turn your Instant Pot off. And now you are going to add in all the other ingredients. So I'm going to start with the tomatoes. Today I used 10 tomatoes because they were pretty large. In the recipe it calls for 12. If your tomatoes are a little bit on the smaller side, go ahead and do 12. I just feel like that number works, 10 to 12. I'm also going to add some crushed tomatoes. I don't know, it gives it a good balance of liquids. So now I'm going to add some crushed tomatoes. I'm going to do about half the can. And then I'm going to add 2 cups of chicken broth. You don't really need a lot of chicken broth for this recipe because there's so much water inside the tomatoes. The tomatoes are very liquidy, so you really don't need too much chicken broth. If you want your soup to be like super thin, then you could always add more. I'm going to add a teaspoon of sea salt because depending on which chicken broth you use, it might be low sodium, it might be just normal chicken broth. So you're going to want to just start with 1 teaspoon of salt, and then later on when you try your soup, if it needs more salt, you can add it then. There we go. I personally like my tomato soup to be a little bit on the spicier side, so I add a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red peppers. If you don't like spice, you can totally skip this part. In fact, if you like your tomato soup to be sweeter, which some people like that, you can add a carrot. Peel a carrot, add it in here because you're going to puree everything anyway. Or you could add a couple of like baby carrots. steal some from your kids. So I'm going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes just to give the soup a little bit of a kick. And then I'm going to add, I believe my recipe calls for 1 teaspoon. I should know this, but I'm going to add some Italian seasoning. And I'll just do 1 teaspoon. Pretty sure that's what it calls for. Now I'm just going to mix everything together. I'm so short I can't really see the top of this. You're going to get your lid, match up the arrows, it'll make that noise. Turn your lid, and then we are going to do manual for 10 minutes. Make sure it's sealed, and then I'll show you what it looks like after. So the Instant Pot timer just went off right now, and what's going to happen is we're going to let the Instant Pot natural release, which means that when your Instant Pot is finished and the timer goes off, the 10 minutes is over, it will start displaying an L with some numbers. So you'll notice right now it's at 1. That means it has been off of high pressure for 1 minute. Now it's been off of high pressure for 2 minutes. So when your numbers start increasing and going up, that means you're no longer cooking in high pressure. So what I do is I let this go all the way up to 10 minutes and it naturally releases. I find that if you, boom, just do a quick release when you're dealing with a lot of liquids, there's like steam everywhere. So I, just as a general rule, will always do a 10-minute natural release, and then I'll go ahead and do a quick release. That's just a little tip. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes of the Instant Pot and natural release. I'm just gonna rotate it a little bit, and you're gonna see all the steam come out. I'm actually gonna turn this off. Okay, let me see. Careful. My Instant Pot is now done releasing pressure. Sometimes a little thing doesn't go down, so I just like tap it and it goes down. Now open it. And now you need either a blender, or you can use an immersion blender, which I think these are a little bit easier. If you use a blender, make sure it's a blender where you can let some heat escape. So not those smoothie blenders where everything is enclosed, because it will blow up. So I've got this KitchenAid immersion blender. So I'm just gonna stick it in here, be careful, and start blending away. Now finished blending the soup, and I'm going to run it through a sieve. It would help if you had a larger sieve than me, but I can't seem to find a larger one. So it's just going to take me a few batches to get mine through the filter. So I'm just going to ladle the soup. You can skip this step if you don't mind your tomato soup being a little bit on the chunkier side. I personally like mine extremely creamy, so I filter through all the tomato skin and the seeds. So what I'll do is I'll just put some inside the filter and then take a spoon or spatula and just run it through. So you can see all it is just tomato skin and seeds. So I will just get my Rachel Ray trash bowl and boom. And then I'll just repeat that process till it's all completely filtered through. I filtered through the tomato soup and then I just put it back inside the Instant Pot, and I went ahead and pressed saute just to get the soup like bubbling and boiling, and then I'm going to add my heavy whipping cream. If you are extremely lactose intolerant and you cannot even handle just a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream, you can always try full fat coconut milk out of a can. The ingredients for this one is just organic coconut extract and water. So during the colder months, sometimes your can will be completely solid. So what I do is I just submerge this in some hot water for about 10 minutes, and then I'll shake it up really well and then open it, and it should all be mixed together. You would use the exact same measurement, so a 1/4 cup of the coconut milk to replace the 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. It won't make your soup taste like coconut milk, surprisingly, and so this is a great dairy-free option if you can't handle the heavy whipping cream. I am lactose intolerant, but I can handle heavy whipping cream just fine, so I go ahead and use it. That's hot enough for me. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. Add my heavy whipping cream. And stir. You don't want to overcook the heavy whipping cream. Just incorporate it really well. If you want more heavy whipping cream, you could add more. So at this point, you're pretty much done with the soup. The last thing to do is to test it, taste test it, to make sure that it has enough salt. So let's do that. It's gonna be hot, so careful. It's perfect. I love it. If you would like to freeze your soup, you definitely can. It freezes really well. What you do is you can either purchase mason jars, you could either purchase silicone bags for the freezer, you could put them in plastic bags or plastic containers. I don't really like using plastic, so I'm putting mine in mason jars. Here's the trick though. You have to make sure that you completely let your soup cool off, or else your glass will shatter in the freezer, and that's not fun. So let me move this. And then I'm just going to ladle this into my mason jar. And you want to leave about 1 inch from the top. Alright, and there you have it. This is a simple Instant Pot creamy tomato soup recipe. Perfect for winter, perfect for the cold weather. Freezes very well. Enjoy!